Crypt of the Black Quill. The sheriff was not merely a lawman, he was the crown's agent, the king's collector, the one who turned decrees into gold. Each county owed the king a fixed sum. Whatever the sheriff collected beyond that sum was his profit. A system designed to tempt greed, and tempt it did. Taxes came in a multitude of forms. Landholders paid dues based on acres, flocks or livestock. Merchants paid tolls for markets, bridges and passage through towns. Then there were the fines, often arbitrary, called amercements, imposed by sheriffs or local courts. These fines were not standardised. They could be any amount the official deemed fit. Fail to maintain your hedge? Fine. Step slightly off the Lord's path? Fine. Displease a bailiff? Fine. And if you couldn't pay, the law was merciless. And then came tallage, a sudden levy, often demanded by the crown for war or royal extravagance, imposed on towns or boroughs. It could arrive without warning. Every tallage was a test of obedience, and failure carried consequences. The human cost was relentless. A tanner, his hands cracked and raw from lime, might fall behind on his dues after a harsh winter. A merchant might miss a single day of payment, only to watch the sheriff's men arrive at dusk, shackles in hand. Property was seized, livestock was driven away, grain, wood and tools disappeared into the sheriff's custody. Each tally carved into wood a record of your life, your debt or your bondage to the crown. If the money didn't appear, imprisonment followed. But medieval prisons were not the same in any modern sense. They were pits of decay. Stone walls, damp and black, held humans in close quarters, sometimes dozen in a single cell. Straw rotted under the weight of bodies. The stench of urine, feces, sweat and sickness filled the air. Disease ran rampant. Starvation was also common. The sheriff, ever cunning, charged prisoners for food, straw and even for the chains that bound them. Those who could not pay endured hunger, sickness and neglect until death came as the only release. Corruption was on every level of enforcement. Sheriffs inflated fees, demanded extra payments or invented fines outright. Chroniclers of the time often noted the impossibility of tracking these abuses, as records were deliberately confusing or destroyed. Even royal justices sent to investigate could only scratch the surface before returning home, leaving local power structures intact. Families suffered alongside the imprisoned. A father taken for debt left his family to starve. Wives and children sometimes joined him in the prison or dungeon simply because they were considered part of his estate. Letters sent to the crown begging for intervention often went unanswered, as the bureaucracy was slow, expensive and indifferent. The everyday life of townsfolk was shaped by this fear. Markets closed early, torches flickered behind shuttered windows, coins were hidden under floorboards and sewn into the clothing, or buried in gardens. Rumours of arrests and seizures travelled faster than news from the raw court. Even the church could not protect the poor. Bribes and influence often decided whose pleas were heard. Over time, resentment built. Heavy taxation, arbitrary fines, and the ever-present threat of imprisonment fueled riots, rebellions and unrest. The Peasants' Revolt of 1381, often remembered for its violence, was also a response to the relentless system of levies, taxes and sheriff's extortion. Ordinary people understood that the law was not a shield but a weapon, wielded by the powerful against the powerless. Yet life went on. Survival required vigilance, cunning and constant calculation. People hid wealth, they moved quietly, they learned the value of silence, obedience and bribery. And still, the sheriff collected, counted and carved their tally sticks, indifferent to human suffering. Medieval towns were theatres of fear. At night, dungeons yawned below the streets. On the surface, life continued as normal. Merchants traded, bell towers tolled, and town criers announced events. But beneath, the machinery of extortion never slept. One unpaid coin could mean weeks, months or years in chains. One mistake could cost everything. History books celebrate kings, knights and battles. They tell you of glory, honour and conquest. But the truth, whispered in the alleys, recorded in the ledgers and carved into the tally sticks of sheriffs, is far darker. It is a story of fear, of relentless extraction, of ordinary people trapped in a system designed to profit from their misery. Every night the same pattern repeated. The poor endured, the guilty sometimes escaped, and the sheriffs grew fat on the coin of misery. Medieval England was not a land of shining deals, it was a land where arithmetic could kill, where a ledger could destroy a family, and where the shadow of a sheriff at your door could change everything. And so, under torchlight and moonlight, amid the smells of smoke, dung and fear, medieval England lived and breathed in the dark. A place where law and corruption walked hand in hand, and the only certainty was the price of survival. Thank you for listening to Crypt of the Black Quill. Subscribe to hear more. See you next time.